Hello everyone, Rexlent here. Welcome to the final video of this PGR's Beginners series. Congratulations if you've been following the videos and have made it this far. If you haven't seen the other beginner guides, be sure to check them out. The link will be provided in the description below. For this video, I'll be providing some final notes and information tidbits that may help you understand the game better and hopefully optimize your plays. Starting with the damage types. You're probably wondering what the difference between physical, fire, dark, lightning, and ice is. Apart from physical, the elements have no unique traits and they purely exist for grouping purposes like Warzone for example. However, physical damage is different from the rest in a few ways, just like the ability to trigger critical hits. So here's a simplified table of attributes in the game on how damage is influenced, and I'll briefly go through them one by one. As you can see, both physical and elemental damage are affected by your character's base attack, skill percentage, and attack up buffs, as well as extra damage bonus like the class skill of attackers, and extra damage reduction debuff skills like from tanks. Apart from those, they each have their own respective buff and defense checks. Starting with physical damage, the enemy's defense, physical resistance, and extra damage reduction come into play. This is why physical tanks are crucial in reducing both defense and extra damage reduction for physical teams to get closer to full damage. Physical resistance can be reliably debuffed in the future with the revamped tank weapon resonance, of which I'll talk about when the time comes. An example of a physical resistance buff is the yellow shield gauge you sometimes see below the enemy's health gauge. They give 20% physical resistance and staggered immunity while it's active, so it's better to break the gauge before bursting them down. On the right, you'll notice that physical damage has a final value that floats between 95% to 105% damage. And as I've mentioned before, physical damage has the ability to crit where every 100 crit stat translates to about 3% crit chance. Crit damage has a base value of 100%, in other words, the chance of doing double damage. Moving on to elemental damage, the main differences are elemental damage does not have damage float and does not crit. However, elemental damage only checks with elemental resistance, unlike defense and physical resistance for physical damage. In other words, elemental damage can bypass the yellow shield gauge buff. If you're wondering why Memory Rescue was really easy to clear with S. Karen compared to physical teams, this is exactly why. She was bypassing their high defense and shields. Finally, the attributes are multiplicative with one another, but you don't have to be too concerned about damage calculation in PGR as the builds are pretty rigid at level 80. So you usually only need to worry about playing well. In summary, here are the main differences between physical and elemental damage that you should know. In the next section, I'll talk a bit more about some combat tips that may be useful to you during your time in PGR. Once your account matures with all three characters in the team fully geared, make a habit to switch often, especially in challenging content, to take advantage of Matrix and recover your character's dodge meter. Matrix can also be used defensively to reposition yourself out of harm's way during its effect. Reminder that you could also inspect the buff and debuff icons on enemies by simply tapping on them. This is especially useful if you've forgotten what the pain cage bosses are weak and strong against. Another common mistake new players may make is spending orbs as they come. This is ultimately counterproductive due to their lower modifier compared to triple pings, so it's better to develop a habit of only doing single and double pings for Matrix or to make way for triple pings and core passives. Sometimes it's also better to rack up signal orbs on your bar so it makes it easier to know what you're working with and planning your next move. This also allows for better burst damage windows when you can perform triple pings consecutively. For the team interface, remember that you can drag and drop characters to quickly switch positions. Tap on a button on the top right to access the team presets, and over here you can establish your presets, which will be very useful in the future when you have the elemental teams done. And finally, this isn't a combat tip, but I thought I'd give it a mention since it can save you a lot of time. When you interact with your constructs in the dorm, the reward is automatically registered the moment the first speech bubble appears. That's when the servers are pinged, so you can immediately move on to the next dorm and repeat the process without having to wait for the entire dialogue. Another trick is that if you swipe really fast, sometimes you can do 2 to 3 head pats in an instant, greatly shortening the daily task. That's right, This is the Dorm speedrun meta. We've come to the end of the video and series, and I hope they have been helpful to you in understanding the basics of the game better. Essential links are in the description below, and consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.